Now live. Welcome to episode 8 of the Whiskey podcast called Suited Up. I am your host, Kyle Beloff. Today we have Phil McDade, and we've got Elkhorn head coach Jamie Richardson on with us. But before we start, I do have to read a note from our sponsor. This podcast is brought to you with the help of Zone Swimwear. With Zone, your swim team can get custom designed swimsuits and apparel. Tons of swim teams have already switched to Zone to get extra team spirit. And the best part is that the designs are no charge. You can get started today with a free design by visiting www.zoneswimwear.com. So, Jamie from Elkhorn, welcome to the big show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Why don't we just start like we normally do by having you introduce yourself and tell us what your swimming background was, how did you get started in high school or college, and then what led you to coaching?
All right. Well, I'm actually going to start a little earlier than that. When I moved to McFarland, I joined the swim team as a club kid, and it was probably one of the best things for me. I got to know kids when you're moving, and that led me into swimming in high school. And then, that community that you have of swimmers, we're kind of sometimes a different breed of athletes you met. Those are my friends still today. And then I went on to UW Eau Claire, and then I started coaching club when I would come home from college, and for McFarland for the Sharks, and that was kind of my first stint as coaching, and I really loved it.
Oh, she'll be back. We're having some minor technical difficulties with Walworth County internet connectivity, right? I think that's it.
Yes.
I mean, Dane County and Waukesha County can communicate, but it's a little bit tougher down in Walworth. Here we go.
I'm back again.
Yay.
So where did I clip off, I guess?
You were at Eau Claire, but then you came back and wanted to continue coaching, I think, in the area.
Yep. So I coached the club team in the summers in McFarland, and just found that love and passion for swimming, and just loved seeing kids improve, and so then when I got my first teaching gig in Elkhorn, they were looking for a coach for the swim team, and saw that I had that coaching experience, and that was 19 years ago. So I've been in Elkhorn now 19 years, and the swim team in Elkhorn was fairly new at that time. They'd had a team, boys team for a year, and a girls team for 2 years. So pretty much been in Elkhorn their whole stint for swimming.
So really from its infancy, really, to where it is now.
Right, exactly. So it's been fun to watch how our program has grown and really improved. When I first started, it was a lot of learning on the kids' part. For they were wearing, my girls' team was wearing 2 pieces, and I was like, oh no, that's not what we do. And
Beautiful.
they didn't want to wear swim caps, and I was like, oh, we've come a long ways. Let's just say that.
That's awesome. Well, I know, I came down to Elkhorn last year and did a nice story on your team last year. At one point, you were ranked number 1 in D1 last year. You finished, I think, tied for 3rd at the state meet last year. You're in the top 10 again this year, and you've got a nice group of kids coming back. Can you tell me about what last season was like for you guys when you kind of, you were among the premier teams in D2, and that was a new thing for you guys, and can you talk a little bit about that, and then maybe we'll reflect about this season as well.
I think we had finished the previous year in 5th place, and we made that board at state, which was really exciting because that's the first time in Elkhorn history we made the board at state, and so then we kind of set those goals. We want to finish higher, and my boys really came on with a vengeance, and working hard in the weight room, working hard in the pool, pushing each other. That's probably our biggest thing that helped us improve, was they were starting to police themselves and kind of push each other to make each other better. And after every meet, I kind of have this team ranking of where they rank on our team, and I always post that, and they are always looking at that sheet to see where they're at, and if somebody beat their time and how they're going to get it back if someone did beat their time. And I think that has really helped, create that sense of competitiveness within our own team, and that makes us even stronger as a team.
So you don't mind a little internal competitiveness and battling for relay spots, which I assume are kind of open and making sure that everybody's on their toes about where they stand.
Exactly. I think that's what makes you a better team, is when someone is challenging you, because then you got to work hard all the time to maintain that spot if that's what you want.
So what obviously coming off of last year, you had you had some graduation losses, but you've got some really strong seniors in particular that we'll talk about. Did you sit down with your team prior to the season and talk about season goals or expectations, or how did you approach that part of the start of the season with this nice group of kids you've got coming back?
Right. Like I said, I have a strong group of seniors that came back with that state experience, and obviously they have some goals they have set. They want some type of state championship banner on our wall. Whether it's in a relay, individual. That's one of their ultimate goals. So far in Elkhorn, we've had one state champion in the 100 butterfly, and they want their picture up there on the wall in Elkhorn, and hey, that's a great goal to have.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that because I looked it up. It was 10 years ago that Dalton Anderson, who went on to swim at UW Oshkosh, I think, won the 100 fly at the D2 state meet in 2009. You've got, it's sometimes in D2, teams are centered around like one really good swimmer and augmented by some other kids. You legitimately have 3 kids who are state title contenders in various events, and maybe we can talk about them individually. I know, Kyle and I saw them at the Sauk Prairie invite. Maybe talk a little bit about your sprinter, Lucas Koepke. He's ranked number 1 or tied for first in the D2 top 30 list in the 50 free. Tell me a bit about Lucas and his approach to sprinting. I've always thought that's kind of a mentally tough swim for kids.
Right, there's little room for error in a 50 free. You got to have that perfect start, perfect turn. One of the things I think Lucas is really good at is getting off the blocks quickly and fast, and obviously in the 50, that's huge. That makes or breaks you. And you watch it, he's got good streamlines, good underwaters. His breakouts are really good. Obviously, like I said, in a 50, there's no room for error, and he's a tough competitor too. He digs deep when he needs to and doesn't like to lose, and he's got that great attitude. He primarily has been a sprinter for us, but it's kind of interesting this year. He's stepped up. We have a different kind of makeup of our team this year, and he's done some different races just to help out the team, and that's always nice to see too from that senior leadership standpoint.
And then at the opposite end of the spectrum, in terms of swimming distance, you've got Willie. Is it Pinot?
Yep,
Willie Pinot, who's a kind of a distance guy, 200, 500, does some backstroke. I think he was second. Excuse me. He's ranked second in the 500 free this year. It's always nice to have good 500 swimmers, I think. Excuse me. Fighting a cold here. Tell me about Willie's progression as a 500 swimmer through his career.
Willie's always, I've known Willie since he was a little shaver in club team, and he's always liked distance. He's one of those kids that enjoys it, doesn't whine when you are saying you're swimming the 500. He's happy to swim it. That's his race. He knows it. He's embraced it. He's really good at that distance per stroke in the 500, really maximizing his stroke and that reach, which is key in a 500. He's really good at kicking, and his walls are usually really great, and that's huge in the 500 because a lot of the times you see those 500 swimmers who like to drag their legs and not kick at all, and he's got that powerhouse kick too as well. So, and like I said, he's a competitor too. He doesn't like to lose, so he likes to bring it when it's, neck and neck, and that's what you want as a coach, someone like that.
Yeah, I hadn't really watched him closely. I watched him pretty closely at the Sauk meet, and he just looks like a kid who has swum a lot of 500s. That's a comfort thing in terms of just his splits were really nice, really even paced. He's in the middle of the season. In late December, he was well under 5 minutes, which I think was a pretty good swim for what I'm sure is a hard training time for you guys. He just looks like a swimmer who's pretty comfortable swimming that race, and looks like he could, easily drop another, 10, 15 seconds or so come state meet time. Is that kind of your expectation of him?
That's our hope. I mean, he's really close to where he left off last season, and we're mid-season here, and that's a good place to be because, like, they're tired here at that mid-season, and usually they're not getting their best times. They're, we're waiting for that taper time to come when they have that rest, and then he's really going to, I think, unload on people, so that'll be fun to watch.
And then I wanted to talk about Hunter Johnson a bit. He's got the top time in the 200 this year in D2. He swam that at the Sauk Invite, broke a meet record up there, which was nice to see. He walks on the deck, and I think if you looked at your team, he's the one swimmer you sort of pick out and say, yeah, that kid's a swimmer. He's got that kind of tall, lanky, swimmer's look to
broad shoulders.
Yeah, broad shoulders. And I did have a chance to talk to him briefly at the Sauk meet. He just seems to be in a really comfortable place. Really just wanting to swim well, but not terribly worried about what his times were, and was really enthused about how he swam at Sauk, and he just seems to be in a really comfortable position. Is that kind of your sense of him too?
Yeah, I think he's set some goals for himself. We've met, and he wants obviously to be a state champion, and that's one of his goals. And he's been working hard to try to achieve those. He knows that it has to come in practice time, not turn on a light switch and you're great at the state meet. It's the practice you put in prior to it.
He just seems like a really good. I can't pretend to know the dynamics of your team, but he just seems to be like a real good leader too, like just a quietly effective kid who others look up to, and he just seems like just to have a great disposition and a great attitude toward things.
Yeah, the other kids look up to him. He's a great kid for me to, to some of my younger swimmers, like, look at some of his technique. A lot of my younger swimmers have learned a lot from Hunter, whether it's, turns or breakouts or just stroke technique. You can learn a lot from watching, him, and he's helped a lot of my younger swimmers or newcomer swimmers be better.
And probably some hard relay choices for you come sectional state meet time.
Right. Yeah, we have, any of those. Last year we did well in the 200 free relay and the 400 free relay, and I have all four of those kids coming back.
Yep.
So, but our medley isn't bad either. So it's, some tough relay choices here coming up into the postseason, which is a good problem to have. I'd rather have that problem. So
I know when you've got, like three seniors like that, sometimes the tendency is to want to spread them out versus consolidating them on one or two relays, and it's a nice luxury to have with guys like that. So
right.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about here on the podcast before is in Division II, sometimes the goal is to get all three relays there and then switch them around once you get there. Is that something you've been thinking about for this year?
That's always in the back of your mind. Is it a possibility to get all three there and then see what if you can switch them up at state and maybe two of them do a little bit better. Like I said, that's always a possibility. It'd be nice to get three relays across.
Tell us a little bit about any sort of philosophy that you have about training high school boys. Do you have a particular approach you take with them, or is it just, they're kind of known for, kind of get them in the water and get them swimming, and once they're in, they're pretty good at working, but getting them there can be a challenge. What you've been doing this for a long time, with some real good success. Tell us about your approach to how you tackle high school swimming with boys.
Yeah, it's a little different than the girls. They're a little different. So I think you have to create a culture of that's what we do and how you work, and this is what we do, and we work hard. We don't goof around. Because when you create that culture, then it just breeds success. It just helps immensely. I know early in the season when we were in our new weight room facility, I know Phil, you got to see it.
Yep.
I initially got them started on what I wanted them to do, and then I kind of backed off and just watched, and they started policing themselves. And hey, no, that's not what we do. I heard one of my older kids say to a younger kid, and I'm like, this is it. That's what I'm looking for me to not always have to be the bad guy and say, hey, knock it off. Or some of my older kids to start doing that, because then the younger kids kind of go, oh, this is what's expected. This is how we work hard. This is what we do for training. And that's helped a lot, because they've seen that success, my older kids, and know what that can bring for them. And then same thing in the water. Like, I strategically, place my lanes with people who are good lane leaders and can make somebody else in their lane better, because that's the goal, is to make your whole team better.
Yeah.
What's the next big meet that you got coming up?
Our next big meet, we got a bunch of dual meets, a non-conference meet next week. I think our next big invite is a Racine invite with a bunch of the kind of Racine, Milwaukee area schools.
And I think you've got the Southern Lakes Conference, which is always competitive. You are in the position where you've got a conference that's a mix of both D2 and D1 teams, and you've got some big programs you go up against. Badger, the Lake Geneva Badger Co-op is a pretty big team. Burlington tends to bring some good swimmers to the meet. Tell us about how you approach sort of the end of the season stretch with conference in a pretty competitive conference, and then I think you're the defending champs, I believe, at the sort of Milwaukee-oriented sectional, or at least the one that's being held at Whitefish Bay this year, and then obviously state, where you're going to be well represented. Can you tell us a little bit about how you think you're going to approach that stretch of the end stretch of the season?
I like to take meet by meet, as I'm looking forward to that. We need to focus in on our races, and I actually do a lot of, at the end of the season with my team, some visualization to really get that mental mindset ready for the meet. A lot of swimming, is that mental preparedness and believing in yourself and having that great attitude. And I am a strong believer in that. At first, when I was talking with the boys and girls team about this, they thought it was crazy. Oh, you're nuts, but when we started doing some of that visualization and they started seeing some benefits from it, I think then they got on board. And I think that helps a ton as you in the postseason, just that visualizing your races and really focusing in on good technique at the end of the season, doing a lot of drill work and focusing in on that technique.
I know our next week's guest, who's going to be one of your D2 colleagues, Monona Grove head coach Kelly Chattis. She brought that to the MG team, and they do a lot of that as well toward the end of the season, and I think it's paid off for those guys as well. So.
Yeah, I think that mental preparation is so important, and the more they believe in themselves, I think,
yep,
the more you get out of them.
Yep. Uh-oh. Hey, Kyle. Can you hear me? Oh, Kyle's now mute.
I can't hear Kyle.
We can't hear you, Kyle. Uh-oh. This is live. Well, Jamie and I can talk about like sectionals. So we're going to talk a little bit about sectionals while you figure out your sound, Kyle. Sectionals are at Whitefish Bay this year, I think.
Correct.
Whitefish Bay.
Yep.
So older pool, kind of a reconfigured pool. How does your team? Do you like swimming there? Have you swum there before?
We have swam there before. I think, it's a fast pool, and
Is it? Okay.
yeah, and they have that experience. My older kids swimming there, so I think, we'll be fine. You just gotta, tell them a pool is a pool and do what you know best.
And I suppose with your team in particular, with your senior, these group of seniors that you've got that have been, I mean, these guys have been swimming. For some of them, this is, I think, it'll be their fourth sectional as a varsity swimmer, because you've had this group swimming varsity for a while. So they're pretty. I assume they walk into a pool and nothing's really going to phase them too much.
Right. Yeah, they have that experience under the belt, and that's huge.
Yeah.
Just to know what to expect.
Yep. Yep. Oh, Kyle's still muted somehow. Oh, maybe you should log off and come back in. I don't know. One other question I wanted to ask you, Jamie, was, Elkhorn strikes me as they've had a lot of sports success and a lot of their athletic teams of late. I know their basketball team had a real good run not long ago. Their football team's been pretty solid. Has that community sort of embraced and taken notice of the swim team and its success in recent years?
Yeah, I think we have a good community support and backing. We had that referendum go through the last couple of years where we got that new weight room facility, which has helped us immensely. Our weight room prior to that was pretty sad, and I couldn't even fit my whole team in the weight room. And so now it's like I can have my whole team in there. We're one team, and we have so much more equipment that we could use, and it's just, I mean, that support that the community has brought to us has helped immensely.
Yeah, for those swim fans who haven't been down there, I had a chance a year ago to visit, and you've got an indoor football athletics practice facility that's probably the envy of a lot of colleges, and you've got that weight room and not the newest of pools, but it seems like a real nice pool in terms of being able to run your practices and such, and it just seems to be a community that really does support its high school athletics.
Right. And I think our pool facility is well maintained, and we got a lot of deck space, a lot of seating. The only thing I probably change is not to be a meter pool, but
not to be meter to get a home.
But sometimes that's
to get a home.
Right. Sometimes that I tell my kids. Yeah, I tell my kids sometimes that's our advantage though, because we train in that longer distance. So when we go away, a yard pool seems easy.
Yeah. That was always Nick Weiss's view when he was coaching at McFarland. He told me that it's like, I love training. I love competing in a yard pool, but I love training in a meters pool because I get those kids into the shorter pool and they just kind of feel that it's just that much faster. Kyle, you know
exactly
that, right?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, Kyle, you're still without sound. Oh no!
Can you hear me?
You should do signs or something.
Okay.
I wonder what happened. Huh. Oh well. Did you log back out?
Yeah, that meter pool,
Yeah, but a meter pool seems like it has some advantages to training.
It does, and like you said, Nick Weiss, what he said, and I grew up swimming in a meter pool, so that was no different for me when I moved to Elkhorn. I'm like, I'm familiar with the meter pool.
Sure.
The only downfall is, as a coach, you gotta constantly convert for the kids, because I always, every meet when we're away on the road, I print off these little slips for the kids so that they know what their yard time is. And so, and it helps them set some goals too.
Sure.
Because going back and forth between that metric time and the yard time, sometimes they can't keep track of both. So I think that helps them set those goals when we go to the yard pool of what they need to get.
And you get some math work in there for the kids for their math studies. It's a wonderful thing. So that's great. So
Right.
well, and have you had a chance to see yet the new pool at McFarland? It's pretty nice.
I have.
Oh, good.
The last time I went home, I wanted to stop down there and take a look at it. I was a little jealous of the facility. They can go, 10 lanes one way, 8 lanes the other, a huge seating area,
Yeah.
It's awesome. I'm glad for them.
Yeah.
Well deserved because, they've worked hard to get that. So,
Yeah, they have.
Proud to call that my hometown.
Yeah. Well, and I spoke with the McFarland athletic director. He apparently has I don't know how public this is, but I'll make it public. There apparently some consideration to applying to host an upcoming sectional meet. I think they want to get their name, put their hat in the ring, so to speak, to host an upcoming sectional meet. And I think it's a pool that's pretty ideally suited to do that. Lots of deck space and nice seating and.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome for the fans. I mean, yeah, like you said, the seating is a ton of seating and a ton of deck space for the visiting teams. It's ideal.
Well, that's as you well know, that's a place that knows how to run swim meets. I go to a lot of swim meets, and it's rare to find a community in a swim community that runs as good of a swim meet as McFarland. There's a lot of communities that do run good swim meets, but I think in McFarland they take a special kind of point of pride in doing their swim meets well. So it was. I've been there for a couple of meets already this year or this season. Went to a girls meet, went to a recent boys meet, and it's like it's fun going there because there's not going to be any snafus or anything like that. They're going to run a well-run meet.
Right. No issues.
Yeah. No issues. No timing issues. So.
Can you hear me now?
You're still on mute. Still can't hear you. Sorry.
Okay,
You should move to another laptop. Borrow Luke's laptop, dude. Like he's got to have something that works, right?
Yeah.
Just go to his room and borrow his. Funny. Well, and do I know there's a club. Oh, here we go. Now it's just me.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Here we go.
Can you hear me?
I think Jamie's coming back on.
I don't know what happened.
I can do a one-man show here. I'll just talk with myself. This is going to make our recap of the Marquette invite a little bit challenging. There you go. Okay. I was going to ask you, Jamie. You've got, I think the Penguins program is there as well as a club program. Do you know about any kind of prospects of kids coming up? Do you anticipate that Elkhorn's going to be able to keep this recent string of really strong performances going, or?
For next year, our prospects, I think.
Or down the line,
We do have a couple. Yeah. We do have, some good boys coming up. I think, they love coming to watch our current high school boys and, look up to them, which is awesome. I've had a couple 8th grade boys who are disappointed that they don't get to swim with my seniors this year because they really would have loved to swim with them. But
you can do that in Minnesota.
I think
you can't do it here.
They've had that opportunity to watch those boys.
Yeah. Well, and even if they didn't have a chance to swim with them, they're, having visited that team last year, they are a really nice group of young men. They're really, it's obvious that they're well coached, and it's obvious that they're a bunch of guys who take pride in what they're doing and representing their community, and it's neat to see them.
Can you hear me now?
So they're just final words, hoping to see you. Obviously we'll see you down the stretch of the season, with some more invites down the road, but hoping you'll do well at Southern Lakes and and obviously hoping to, I assume, defend your championship at the sectional meet. And we'll see. I'm sure we'll see it stayed with a bunch of swimmers, and it'll be fun to see how the Elks do this year.
Uh-oh.
So, can you hear me? You good?
I can hear you.
You were broken up a lot there, Phil.
Okay, sorry about that. Just wishing you good luck. I mean, it's
That's all right.
neat to have a group of swimmers
All right, thank you.
that have been with you this long. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
yep, and good luck, and we will see you down the road, and we'll certainly see you at the natatorium.
All right, sounds good. Thanks
All right.
for having me. It was fun.
Thanks so much, and give our best of luck to the Elks of Elkhorn. Tell them good luck, and tell them we'll see him.
Awesome.
We'll see him at state. Okay, take care, Jamie.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank
Bob.
you. Okay, what do you think?
I can hear.
I can't see it. I can hear you. Did you try logging off and coming back on, just like exiting out of it and coming back?
You
like
can't
kill
you
your
can't-
window and then hit the link again.
Can you hear me?
Or did you do that already?
I did that.
You did that already. So
Okay. Hang on.
this is kind of bizarre.
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you still. Can you hear me? You can hear me.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
And I can't hear you.
Okay.
Folks, the beauty of live webcasting. All right, maybe I did some. Maybe I can mute. Did you hear your mute mic button down there?
I did
You've got
not.
a button down there that says mute mic.
Yep. It's on. But you can't hear me now.
Doesn't work.
No.
We're still working. There, you're muted. You're totally muted up in the upper left-hand corner or upper right-hand corner. You need to kill that somehow. Upper left corner, you're muted. The scroll, there's a scroll bar downstairs. I know we're working this out live. Isn't this great? There's a scroll bar down that's got mute mic, hide cam, share screen. Maybe it's Phil's issue. I don't think it is, Amy. This is great. Amy Ketterling is weighing in. Amy, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Amy is the mom of the Ketterling group of swimmers in Oak Creek. Big Wisca fan. So what I can tell is on this, when I see you, Kyle, your mute button is on, and you've got to figure out a way to unmute it. Leave room settings. Yeah, because I can see it on the thing. In the room, hang tight. Are you there? Somehow your mute button is still on, I think. I don't know. Somehow your mute got. So what do you think of like logging out and coming back on? Like just close your window. Like just get rid of this. Kill yourself off. And then come back. Just go back to the email and link in. Uh-oh. He's thinking of it. And while we're waiting, I really do want to give a big shout out to Amy Kettling for watching us and weighing in here. Thank you, Amy. We appreciate the support and the efforts at helping. Maybe a future guest on the Wisca podcast. What if I close out of the link and go back on? What do you think? Should I kill myself and come back on? Then we'll have no one here. Can't hear you. You should phone. We can do this. Just call me and we'll do it over the phone. And I'm here to report that Wisconsin is up 34-28 over Illinois at halftime. We can do all manner of things here. So close your window and then try to come back on. See if that works. Just go click and then come back on. No? All right, you stay on. I'm going to click out and come back on, okay? Okay, I'm back. You're still muted. When you're on, do you see a little thing there on the bottom of your screen? The mute mic, the hide cam, the share screen, the settings, leave room. Do you see that? Or you could try the help button. I don't know. What do you think? Should we promo the wrap up tomorrow? Do a quick one tomorrow? Okay, let's do that. So we're gonna return for a brief segment tomorrow night, and we'll see if Kyle's gonna do this. We may close this segment out with our interview with Jamie Richardson, head coach at Elkhorn, and we may come back tomorrow night and do another brief 20-minute segment in which we highlight some of the swimming last weekend at the Marquette Invite, which was held at the Schrader Y Pool in Brown Deer. Anyone who's swum in Wisconsin of any modest accomplishment has probably had a chance to go to Brown Deer and swim at the Schrader Y. Recognized pretty widely as one of the faster pools in Wisconsin. It hosted a big 23, 22 team invite with a lot of fast swimming. We wrote about it briefly on Wisca, and Kyle and I were both there, and maybe we'll do some recap up there. I'm going to wait a couple seconds to see if Kyle's going to come back on here. He says he will be here soon. So we'll just be patient. Thank you for your patience and waiting through our technical issues here.
Can you hear me now?
We will try to be back on. Okay.
Can you hear me
see
now?
you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, you're doing the 2-window thing.
Can you hear me?
Ha! We're back.
You can hear me now.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
I cannot tell you what happened.
It's the goblins of Waukesha County.
It was those two pieces of string that the Elkhorn internet was using. Okay. So
well, it was good to talk to Jamie. She had some nice thing to say about her team, and I think they're going to be a fun team to watch down the home stretch of the season. And she certainly put together a nice program at Elkhorn.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really impressed with them over at Sauk Prairie. They swam pretty
Yep.
well.
Yeah, they're a good solid team. Maybe not as deep as some D1 teams or some other D2 teams, but at the top end of that lineup, they're pretty solid. And she's got 3 legitimate state title contenders, I think, on that team, and some relays that certainly are probably going to be pretty darn good come state meet time. So,
Absolutely.
okay, you want to talk about Marquette?
Sure. Let me I can bring in the results.
Yep, I got them here too.
I thought it's a good meet. It's the largest that they've ever had it. And I thought it was a pretty good meet.
I thought it was an awesome meet. I was really pretty impressed with what I saw there. And I think it's changed a little bit because WSCA put out new rankings every Sunday, but heading into that meet, I think 10 of the top 12 teams in D1 were at that meet,
Right?
and including 1, 2, and 3, I think, and plus Edgewood, which is defending champs in D2, and certainly brought some good swimmers there. So it's rare that you see a midseason invite that loaded, and I thought it was just awesome. I was really impressed with what I saw, and maybe we should start off by talking about. I don't know. I thought the 2 swimmers that to me really stood out during the meet were Sun Prairie's Ben Wiegand, who we've talked about on this webcast with Coach Joel Coyne, and Emilio Perez from the Greenfield Co-op, who the 2 of those guys just ripped off like 8 great swims between the 2 of them.
Right.
They never faced each other, which was kind of a bummer. I think they've got the 2 of the fastest 50 free times in the state this year. And I think everybody who's a swim fan is hoping those 2 will face off against each other in the 50 free, because I think it's almost certainly that the state meet record, the state record of 20.44 is going to go down. And
Right.
we've never had a sub 20 swim at state ever. Not even really close to it, considering the state record's 20.44. But you get those 2 guys suited up and tapered at the net, going up against each other, and they could be really low 20s, I think.
Right.
I mean,
right.
You think so?
Yeah, and it's very unusual to be at a mid-season high school meet for us and watch that 200 free relay, and when the splits flashed up on the board, and you could hear the crowd just go, whoa, and then they all start clapping and going nuts. I mean, if in the swimming world, it doesn't really happen very much.
No, you're right.
And it might happen at state, and sometimes it may be at sectionals, but even at sectionals, a really fast swim isn't really appreciated. But Ben's anchor in the 200 free and going to 19.7 really, I mean, I think that was eye-opening for a ton of people at that meet.
Yeah. Well, I don't know in the history of the state that anyone has ever swum that fast of a 50 free split coming off the relay start. I mean, 19.7 is, I mean, that's, like Toomey was like 19.77, and Wes Lagerhausen, who swam for Lake Geneva Badger, he was like 19.78, and Steve Sobertowitz, who was a great swimmer, sort of post Garrett Weber Gale days at Nicolay. Right. He had a 19.78 or 19.76 split. I seem to recall at state one time, went on to swim North Carolina, but 19.70 without a suit, he was swimming in a brief.
Right.
And admittedly, a good straighter's a fast pool, but 19.7 in a brief is crazy.
Yes. I was fairly, it was funny because you and I talked before that we remember seeing them last year at the Fond du Lac invite, and I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
He's gotten him in person now. He's gotten a ton better from last year.
Yeah. Well, and I think Emilio's been really terrific all season long. I mean, Emilio, they kind of let him off on the 50 free relay. On the 200 free relay, they let him off, and I think he was 0.04 of a second slower than Wiegand's flat start 50 free at the meet. And then
Right.
Ben swam the 100 breast and was like 56, 57
Yep.
or something, winning it. And Emilio swam the fly and was like 48.7, which is nobody's swum for. I mean, that's approaching, really, if you think about it, tapered and suited up, that's approaching Bubolt's territory. And then you start talking about all-time great state records. Bubolt's fly record is 47.77, and nobody's really come close to that, really. I mean, there's been a few 48s in state history, but it'd be fun to see like Kaiser Neverman, who's a really terrific flyer for Green Bay United, and William Hayen, who's a sophomore and another really good swimmer, sort of north of Milwaukee, Madison area. And Emilio go at it in the 100 fly, because that's just those 50 sprints and those flies just seem really loaded this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. Did anything else jump out at you?
Well, a kid who really stood out for me was Jack Lusting of Emilio's teammate at Green Bay. He's always been on the radar as a pretty good distance swimmer, pretty solid, comes from a swimming family. The Lusting family's a big swimming family, and he swam the 500 and won a 4:37 and change, and beat this really good kid from the Chicago area who was swimming there for Fenwick High School. And I mean, 4:37, I know a little bit about 500 swimmers in high school. 4:37 in the middle of the year is awfully good. And for Jack to do that, I thought was pretty darn impressive. I mean, Caleb Blischke, who we all know from Waukesha South Catholic Memorial, swam, I think he was 4:39 maybe, or 4:40 something. I'd have to look real quick.
4:45. He was 4:45.
Yeah, 4:45. But yeah, I was, that's a solid swim. But Lusting going at 4:37 was like, wow, that's really good. And he had some good competition to go up against. But I as much as I admired how Perez and Wiegand swam, I wasn't shocked. I was kind of like, his 19.7 was pretty darn fast. But Lusting's 4:37 was sort of out of the blue almost for me. I mean, that was like, I thought maybe on a really good day he could do that at state, and to do that midseason was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I would 100% have to agree.
And I thought, the other swimmer I think that probably stood out for me was Jacob Carlson, who set a meet record, I believe, in the 100 back.
Yep.
Was right around 50 low. Swam a really solid 100 to win the 100 free. He was 45.9, I think, to win the 100 free. Not quite a meet record, but pretty solid. Well, really solid.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you talk about these kids and their times, and you kind of take it for granted that they're routinely going under 46, and that's never a routine. So I thought Jacob had a really solid day for Waukesha South, and it was the other kind of cool thing I thought about the meet that we haven't talked too much about is just how close the team race was. Sun Prairie won it the first time they've ever been there. They won it by 2 points over Waukesha South Catholic Memorial. I think Madison West was only another 12 points behind.
Correct.
And Middleton would have been about another 12 or 14 points behind, but their 400 free relay DQ'd, which I didn't notice until I got home. And that probably cost them about 30 points. So
sure.
I think, and then with Greendale, I think they were fourth in the team race. I think those 5 teams, if I were to pick 5 teams to battle it out at state, I'd put it, Sun Prairie, Waukesha South Catholic Memorial, Madison West, the 2-time defending champs, Middleton, which has been runner-up the last 2 years, and then Greendale, which, I think they're going to get better as the meets go on, because they've got a couple of really high-profile swimmers who are, Perez is going to be really good at state. So
let's just from a coach's strategy.
Yeah,
it is interesting that Coach swam Emilio and Jack in 3 relays and 1 individual for this meet. So I'd be interested to get into into his mind and find out If it's just for this,
Getting into Dale's mind now, that's a scary thought.
I mean, is he doing it just for this meet, or is that the plan going forward and try to go and maybe break some records with those two guys on relays? Because Leo Gandaria is not a slouch either. So he's got three kids who are lights out. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of strategy he takes going a little bit further, because you would assume that Jack would traditionally swim the 200 or the 500, but he didn't do it at this meet. And I don't know if that was purposeful for this meet to try to win 3 relays, or if there was a plan just to see how that experiment works and see if the points are there and you get more by going at that route. So you'd have to do some checking to see what his plans are going forward, like at the conference meet or at sectionals.
Yeah. Well, and what I thought was fascinating was that he front runs Dale Schrank, the longtime coach at Greenfield Greendale, front runs his relays, right? So he leads off Emilio in both the 200 and the 400 free relays. And it's not Gardenia. How do I say that? Gandaria.
Oh yeah, sorry.
And I think he even had Lustig swim third on both those relays, both the free relays. And so he was. I thought I'll never, things you remember for a long time. Greenfield Greendale had a half a pool length lead after the first 2 legs of that 200 free relay, which is a lot. That's like 12 and a half yards in a 200 free relay with 2 legs to go is a lot. And, Sun Prairie obviously sort of backloaded their relays and made up not only was the time that Wiegand split great, but it was a great come from behind win. I was, I had always thought it's like, Dale seems to, have thought maybe he's going to put together a medley because Emilio is a really good backstroker and Lustig's a good flyer and he's got a decent backstroker or a breaststroker, and Gandaria can anchor. But those 4 guys went 3:08 in the 400 free relay in the middle of the season, and that's a time that can win state in a lesser year. So
right.
I'm kind of curious, like which of the 3 relays he chooses, because 3:08 is really seriously good, which means he can put together, and then he's got a guy who's going to be sub 20 on a relay start, and another guy who's going to be sub 21 leading off on his 200 free relay. And how do you not use those guys on a 200 free relay, right? So it's kind of, I'll be fascinated. I can't imagine that he'll stack 3 relays with those 3 guys.
And the hardest part for me as a coach is on the 200 free relay, they were ahead, and his anchor still went a 22.5.
Yeah,
I mean, which is nothing to sneeze at. It'd been the fastest split on any of the guys on my relay. It would have been, if you look at the splits, there's a whole bunch of relays. It would have been a pack or second fastest or third fastest. His anchor, and he just got out touched. I mean, it wasn't like he did anything wrong. He's still 22.5. And stuff happens.
Yeah, I think that'll be one of the really fascinating choices. I just, the interesting thing is all 3 of those guys are juniors, which I sort of didn't notice until I sort of knew that Emilio was, and I would look closely. And, usually in the past years, your junior year for a guy at state is usually a pretty high profile meet, right? And if you're looking at them at the next level, you're looking at these high profile meets that you want to do well on. And, in college, you're not asked to swim 1 or 2 events. You're asked to swim 3 events. And certainly Emilio in particular, I think is a 3-event kid in college. And I assume, Jack, I assume Jack will be certainly. He has the look of a kid who can like swim a mile pretty easily, and I assume, again, Daria, if he has the ambition to swim in college, and so it's kind of weird. I think if you're a coach, I've known coaches who don't necessarily want to limit their kids to just one individual event at a state meet when it's a pretty high profile meet for them, and you want to kind of showcase what they can do. And I don't know what Dale thinks, obviously, but I'll be really intrigued to see whether he lets these really good swimmers that he's got showcase themselves in more than one event, in more than one individual event at state.
Right, I agree.
Because
anything else really stand out for you?
I had that one other little sidelight that didn't get much attention, obviously, because we're watching swimming. Mike Conley is the top returning diver for Marquette and dove at the meet and pretty much was second by a lot by this young sophomore for Madison Memorial named Drew Bennett, who outscored Conley by like 50 points, which suggests to me that maybe Mike didn't have a great meet or didn't have a great dive, or sometimes you mess up one dive and it can affect your score. But Conley and Bennett are the top two returning divers in the state. Conley was second last year. Bennett was third. And in talking to some folks in the Madison area, they've been telling me that Bennett has kind of stepped up his game, that he's gotten better. Obviously, he's matured a little bit, maybe a little bit stronger off the board. But for him to be Conley by 50 points at a pretty big invite, that was pretty surprising to me. And I, much to Drew's credit, he obviously had a good meet. And I'm sure Conley's going to face him again at state. And Mike's certainly a veteran senior diver. But that was a result that I was kind of struck by that. That struck me as an interesting result, not one I would have thought or predicted going into the meet. So,
yeah, because I think the kid from Marquette won, the Nicolay won by a wide margin, I thought.
Yep. Yeah, he's a solid diver. He's really good. I didn't get a chance to see his dive meet up close, but I would, but looking at that meet, I would think, boy, state's going to come down to Conley of Marquette versus Drew Bennett of Madison Memorial. That should be a pretty good contest between those two.
Sure.
So, yeah, overall, I thought it was a great invite. It was full of a lot of good fast swimming and an enthusiastic crowd, which I thought was great. And it was good to see some, had a nice long chat with Dick Vogel, the head coach of Beloit Memorial, who told me a few things that I hadn't noticed about swimmers that, someone like Dick's experience brings to the table. And it was fun to talk to him. So just a great meet. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Was that your first time there?
Yeah, that's not the first time I've been around here, but it's the first time I've seen that invite. And I thought your kids were really good, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
I thought the North Stars were really good, this weekend. I thought your guys were really, really sharp.
Yeah. We talk about that as being one of our bigger meets of the season, coming off of training and seeing what they've got in the tank, because we swam pretty hard all the way through to that meet. And now we've got 2 dual meets, and then 2 Saturdays we go to Fond du Lac. So we got kind of a lull, because I don't put a lot of stock in times in dual meets. I put a lot more stock in technique and what we're working on in practice specifically, starts or turns. And what I explained to them even in practice was, at a dual meet, anything could happen. You could forget your lunch. You could get in a fight with your buddy. You could be late for school. You could get a tardy. You could go to the principal's office. You could fail the exam. All those things into you. Whereas on a Saturday, none of that stuff should happen, because everything should be planned out properly for a Saturday. So we put a little more stock on our Saturdays than our Thursdays. But we've got 2 tough Thursdays coming up, then a fun meet out in Fond du Lac. So just to wrap up.
Yeah.
Next week,
I thought a good test of a team is when you come in and you're surrounded by a bunch of good swimmers and a bunch of big teams and some really, it was pretty apparent from the very first race it was going to be a lot of fast swimming, that you guys held your own. And I thought that was, nobody shrunk from that. And it was really good to see your guys step up to that. It was pretty solid meet for those guys.
Yeah, we broke a school record in the medley relay that stood from 2002 with the great Kyle Buboltz on it. So that's the last relay record that he's got on the board that's now gone.
Yeah. That's solid for an early January meet. That's
Mhm,
good.
mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good. All right. Well, thank you for all who have held on here through our technical issues. We appreciate your patience. So,
And then next week we've got the great Kelly Chadich from Monona Grove, right?
yep, she's ready to do this. So,
And then we'll be trolling the sidelines to find people for weeks 10 and 11 leading up to sectionals.
I've got one in mind for 10, and I've got someone else in mind. So we will lock that down fairly soon.
Okay, and you have to make sure that you find a way to watch the replay, because the logo shows up on the replay. And as you were talking about all of her kids' times, I was putting on the screen the top 5 in those events. I was cutting.
Oh, that's totally impressive.
So you'll have to find a replay of it. Okay.
I will do that. That's totally impressive.
Okay.
It's almost like a real TV station. With
Yes,
a green.
almost.
All right.
Okay. Thanks a
All
lot,
right.
Phil.
We'll see you. Take care. Thanks for
See ya.
tuning in, folks. See you.
Bye-bye.